Welcome back, everybody, to All New Nerds. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe and like the video. Smash it.
Smash it.
Yeah, now I know.
Destroy it. In fact, break YouTube.
Destroy it. Break the system. We have a really special guest. I cannot believe he's on. I personally am a big fan of his channel. I know the other boys are too. We have the one and only Star Wars Only.
There it
Thank
is.
you for coming on. Thank you for coming on.
Howdy. I would say hello there, but I feel like it's overdone now. So
Yeah, a little overdone.
Yeah,
a little bit.
How are you? How are you on this fine Sunday afternoon?
I'm good. It is a nice day here in Orlando. I'm praying we don't get a Camino weather, because about 3 hours ago it was pouring rain. So you never know with Florida. It could be clear skies 1 second, and the next second Hurricane Katrina's back. So
tell me about it. That's New England. Man,
yeah. Well, no, not as
welcome
bad
to
as
weather.
We don't get
talk on
hurricanes.
All new nerds.
yeah.
The meteorologist. The only
only.
meteorologist.
We are
we got weather
channel.
Weather show.
Yeah.
I remember Hurricane Sandy. That was a hell of a hurricane.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
I lived in Texas, so hurricanes never even heard of them, honestly. I just kind of like, oh, is that a thing?
Great start, John. So John's favorite planet is Camino. There's
there's
like
the connection.
Segue.
Yeah, when it rains, he looks out and he goes, oh yeah.
He goes, oh god, it's just like Camino.
I like this.
He's like, oh, I feel like I'm a clone and I'm about to go. I'm a
I had
slave
that-
to fight in
I
someone
had
else's
that-
war.
Once again, yeah.
I did that in pools a lot. When I was in a pool, I was like, dude, this is like Kit Fisto and those clones under the water.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Big fan.
That's
When
cool.
you push off the wall. It was like 2011, and I was like, hot damn, dude, I'm like Kit Fisto.
Yeah, dude, the
Yeah.
underwater pool fights. Yeah.
Well,
when
anyway,
I was learning how to ride a bicycle, I thought General Grievous, that little speeder thing that he had in Revenge of the Sith. I was like, all right, yeah, I was like, all right, think about the wheel turning, man. You can build by balance.
Man, it's just so fun. Like, that's just Star Wars, man. Like, it's impacted us so much. Like, all four of us, it seems that like everything seems to relate somehow. You know what I mean? Like, as simple as like water falling from the sky. It's like Camino.
Just like Camino.
No one had any like big like traumatic moments with Star Wars relations. Like, did any of you like chop your dad's hand off or something, or like?
Oh yeah, I'm like, you want to be cool, you gotta lose a limb, man.
Yeah,
You gotta lose a limb.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start it. Let's start it off in the beginning. What? Yeah, because
From the beginning.
we're all pretty young here. So what made you want to make content?
Ooh, man, it goes back so far. I started on Instagram probably in 2014, 2015 at the earliest. Definitely before Force Awakens had like a big media press tour. And so I started it. I was probably a freshman in high school, and I love Star Wars, and it had always naturally been a big part of my life. I went to go see Revenge of the Sith in theaters. Attack of the Clones is the first movie I ever remember seeing. And so when I got older and I kind of realized, yeah, I am too now. But now that I'm older, I'm like, it's weird that I'm a big fan of this franchise, and I feel like so many other people weren't big fans of it compared to me. So it was really cool to see on Instagram there were already some Star Wars fan accounts, and I wanted to make my own. And I was like, all right, well, I want to make one for Star Wars, but I can't talk about anything else. So I wanted to come up with a unique name. Star Wars Only happened. 2-3 years later, maybe even 4 or 5 at this point, I realized I absolutely hated Instagram. It just, everyone steals everyone's content on there.
Instagram.
It's nothing but, it's not a place to really get
I
good
would've scummed
conversations with
Hey,
people.
but follow all the nerds on Instagram and Star Wars.
Speaking of which, follow us all on
Follow us
Instagram.
on Instagram.
Link in the descriptions below. Yeah, it's a good platform to connect to people, but it's not a great platform to actually like connect on a personal level to people.
Right.
And for me, when it came to like Star Wars topics and debates, it was like I want to be able to articulate my thoughts a little bit well, and I'm still trying to work on that today with my YouTube channel. But that's why I made the YouTube channel, is because I was like, you know what, I like talking about this stuff, so why not do it on here? Because at the time I made my channel, all the big pages in Star Wars, Instagram at least, we're actually a lot nicer there than we are on YouTube, because we all have a big group chat, we all talk and we help each other out. All the big pages realize Instagram is slowly dying out and becoming a little bit obsolete, because we have Twitter, we have Facebook. I mean, they're all merging into the same thing. So I was like, I'll go to YouTube, actually make money from it, because we don't make a lot of money from Instagram. And I mean, I guess the rest is history in the sense of
Yeah, what's
I've
the
been doing that ever
AdSense like
since.
on Instagram? But
There is no AdSense.
Yeah,
If you
what?
get paid on
Yeah,
Instagram,
a-
the only way you get paid for the longest time, the only way we ever got paid was people pay us for promotions,
Oh,
and
okay.
it was a kind of a double-edged sword of like we made a lot like back in 2016 when Rogue One was coming out, and you got to think I was probably 17 at the
The
time.
money was flowing.
I was making about $150 a week at 17 years old, and I'm still working a part-time
Wow.
job on the weekends.
Right.
So I was like, wow, this is a really cool thing. Like, I'm glad I can make money from this. But as time went on, drop shipping stopped being a big deal. People started realizing like Alibaba or Ali, whatever the hell its name is, like all
Alibaba.
this stuff,
Alibaba,
Alibaba,
yeah.
whatever. I can't
Whatever
speak
it's
English.
called.
Sorry. They were like, oh, that thing's fake. Like everything just started kind of crashing on Instagram because a lot of the products people were selling were scams, fake, and
Trash,
and
right.
so
Yeah,
it just
that's
kind of slowly dwindled. And now to the point, like a lot of us don't make hardly anything on Instagram anymore. Instagram is probably the least kind to its content creators. They don't pay anyone a dime, and we make them so much money. So that's why I switched to YouTube, because you'll make something on YouTube and there's a little bit more passion and actual art to it, in my opinion, than there is on Instagram.
Right.
Instagram
Yeah.
has always been look at me kind of stuff, instead of
Exactly.
like something interesting, something of substance.
I feel like TikTok has sort of bridged the YouTube and Instagram. Like you're looking at me, but I can also create
100%.
interesting content. It's sort of become the new like
You're right.
mainstay of social media right now.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy over there. Yeah.
Well, I think you've definitely succeeded in your trying to branch out from when you were on Instagram, like articulating your thoughts and stuff. I mean, look at your documentaries that have been pretty widely successful, and just like a lot of your other videos.
Can't
I
do that
think
on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
You've
you
done.
can't.
I think
Well, you can
you've
promote it
really
on Instagram, but yeah.
been able to
Mhm.
transform into something else. And now, what you're at like 60 something K. So
Yeah, I think 62, close to 63. It hasn't been a lot of growth these past probably since January.
Yeah.
Because
Well, we've
it's
been on
just been
kind
a
of a
dry
low
time for
point
Star
on.
Wars.
Yeah, it's been a dry. Yeah. for sure.
right.
Yeah,
But
it's
cut
been
2
really
weeks.
weird.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Let's hope
Bad
so.
batch.
If not even this year, next year's going to be a big one. We're going to get a
Oh,
lot of
next
Star
year,
Wars
yeah.
shows.
It's gonna be
Oh.
massive.
It's
If
gonna be
nothing
nonstop.
else, I'm like 10 days from now when Bad Batch starts, I'm pretty sure we won't have a dry spell of Star Wars for like a couple of years.
No,
'cause
'cause
we
yeah,
No,
can
it's
go
gonna be
from-
like Marvel, where we just keep getting.
It's
Bad
gonna
Batch
Bad Batch to
Visions.
Visions, into Boba
Boba
Fett,
Fett.
into Andor, into Kenobi, into Mando season
Mhm.
3, into Ahsoka, into all
Ahsoka.
all the
Gonna be
other
wild.
shows.
Imagine how good it's going to feel in 2023, looking at, like, let's say we're in the last day of 2023, December 31st, and we're like, okay, I just watched Rogue One, or my bad, Rogue Squadron. For you might have rewatched Rogue One. You might be in
Yeah,
a Rogue mood.
that's
You just watched Rogue Squadron come out in theater. You've seen all the new shows. Ahsoka has been out, Kenobi, Mando season 4, Book of Boba, season 3 probably of the Bad Batch, the Visions, all these other shows that have probably come out by that point. Imagine standing at that point and then looking back
droid
5
story.
years at
Yeah.
2018. Like
Man, when-
2018 was rough.
When you lay it out like that, man, yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
It's like it's really
Mhm.
gonna feel like an MCU, because MCU is massive. And not to say Star Wars isn't massive, but MCU has taken everyone, and it's just because
Yeah.
they have so much compelling content, and it all like really connects.
They have a very good rhythm going with their
Yes.
production right now
Yes.
that we're not at yet.
This is
Yeah.
sort of off the beaten path with the layout, but you mentioned like we're gonna be at sort of the point is Rogue Squadron, where we're gonna look back on that point of Rogue Squadron. Do you think that movie is going to be post the Rise of Skywalker?
Oh, yeah.
I would imagine. Oh, wait. Post Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. Just the language that was set out was that it's the new era of the galaxy, and that's about all we know.
Suggest
If that's the
after,
case,
but-
then I would hope so. Just because, okay, if they do it in the sequel trilogy, because I'm going to be really honest with you, the name Rogue Squadron, like the concept of it possibly just being like TIE fighters and X-wings and stuff, that doesn't necessarily make me all that excited. For me, it's like a spin-off movie where it's like, okay, it could be like Solo, it could be like Rogue One, where I'll watch it. It's probably a fun, nice 2-hour spectacle. It's a Star Wars story, but it doesn't have a lot of meaning to me. So if it's in the sequel trilogy, that's probably how I look at it. But if it's post Rise of Skywalker, I'm going to look at this a little closer, and I'll actually be a little bit more excited for it, because Patty Jenkins is co-writing it and directing it. We don't know who the other writer is yet,
Mhm.
but she directed the first Wonder Woman, and I really liked that movie. I thought it was the best DC movie up until like the Zack Snyder cut, which isn't perfect, but like I thought it was the best DC movie at the time. And so I've heard the second one's really bad. I haven't seen it, but I've also heard that it's not because of
Yeah,
her,
it's
it's because of the story. So yeah, so
I
I'm-
enjoyed
I'm
it for what it's
kinda-
worth.
Yeah,
Are we talking the second or the first one?
Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah, I
Oh,
just heard
yeah.
awful things
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, but anyways,
Yeah.
I just
I'm,
thought,
I'm
you know,
looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to Rogue Squadron in the sense of it's new. It's a breath of fresh
New.
air. Of
Well,
we
I-
have no idea what to expect from this.
It's gonna be the first movie back after a while, and yeah, hopefully it's
Well,
some
I
new,
just started to
fresh
think that-
content.
I just started to think about, you know, if we really, I actually don't know if we want to go down this route. But I was thinking about Ryan Johnson's future trilogy, so maybe that could be like the.
I don't know if we're going to be
Squadron could
even
the first insight
thinking
into
about that then, because, you know,
No, I know. Yeah,
only
yeah.
brings up the point of looking back on what we've gotten when we're at that Rogue Squadron date.
I
But
did not.
I think that Rogue Squadron honestly might be sort of small fish compared to what we may have just been seeing with. By that point, it's like Mando season 4. Like we're gonna get towards the finale
Mhm.
of Mando. You know,
Yeah.
Obi-Wan is essentially like a whole episode in the Skywalker saga. Like it's episode 3.5. I mean, it's Obi-Wan and freaking Anakin Skywalker.
Right.
Like, these are
Right.
main characters of the Star Wars saga. This isn't like a spin-off. Like this is a main part.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I think honestly, by the time Rogue Squadron, obviously we haven't seen any footage or really know anything about the story. But honestly, yeah, I think I lean more towards it's going to be more like Solo and Rogue One, just because of the volume and quality of what we may have just been getting. It might be hard for us to adjust back to a movie format from like we're watching these long 6-hour epics. in
Yeah, because all we're
TV
getting
series.
is really series from now on for the next couple years until Rogue Squadron comes out.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like a direct result of what happened with like COVID and stuff? The fact that they decided to go the full TV show route, or do you think they would have done that
I
regardless?
think just part of it is the success of Disney Plus.
I think that question
Mhm.
was for the guest, Jonathan.
That
No, I thought that
was for
John,
anyone.
and
I was
gonna-
I was
had a
throwing
good,
that
he had
to
a good
anyone.
response.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
no,
true.
That's
true.
literally any of
Yeah,
you could have taken.
I
that.
want to do
I-
that cage match with all new nerds even more now. Keep going.
I'm just giving you crap.
a four-man fight. And just anyone, whoever wins, gets to direct the next Star Wars movie.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Honestly.
wow.
Oh, whoa.
So how hard would you guys be fighting? Because I'm gonna let you know, I'd let you all win. I would be like, hey, good luck.
100%. Yeah.
I'd be like, hey, whoever directs the next Star Wars movie, you're in a rough spot.
Yeah,
That's all
that's
you.
true. That's,
That's
a lot
all
of
you.
responsibility. That's a good point.
And it's speaking of,
Anyways, yeah, going back to that question. What do we think?
Oh, about what COVID being the reason we're going more of a TV route.
I
Yeah,
think
Yeah,
just
yeah.
the TV, that's sort of the transitioning from, do we think we'll be able to, as fans, transition back to the 2-hour, you know, mindset over what because we've been so spoiled with the amount of content in terms of like hours of Star Wars we are seeing. Like,
Mhm.
like how do you think? Like, is that gonna?
It'll-
Are we really gonna have an appetite for movies anymore?
I think we will, but I think it has to be special. Like one thing that Bob Iger talked about when it came to buying Star Wars is like when you go to see a Star Wars movie, it's like an event. You know, you want
Yeah.
to make
Oh,
like
yeah.
I remember going to see this. This is where it felt weird for me, like seeing some Star Wars movies that I didn't like recently. But like I remember going to see Revenge of the Sith in person. I remember seeing The Force Awakens, like when both of these came out, and how big of a culture event where everybody was talking about it. This was a big deal, and
Yep.
most of us, if not all of us here right now, are probably too young to remember. But it was an even bigger deal in 1999, 1977. So when I look at stuff like that, I'm like, I want that kind of similar vibe and feeling going into future Star Wars movies. Do I think I'm going to get that with something like Rogue Squadron? I'm going to be honest, absolutely not.
No,
But when
right.
it comes
Yeah,
to
right.
something like if they do a movie, and this is coming from the guys, I think Kessel Run Transmissions, we kind of hinted at this of there may be a finale for the Mandalorian story that is done in a movie aspect.
That makes
So if that
sense.
happens in like 2026 or 2025, whatever, if that happens, then it's going to be like, okay, this is an event because everyone's interested in the Mandalorian. So I do
Right.
think we can get back to that. And I don't think we are being spoiled, but Lucasfilm is doing it very smart with Disney Plus of doing an episode a week, getting back into that format of like leaving us wanting more. Because one thing that I think the Mandalorian has done great so far is every time an episode has ended, and mainly every time a season has concluded, I've gone, I want to see more. I just want to see
Yeah.
what's next. So if they can continue that kind of story pattern, I think the movies are going to do fine. I think they can continually hit $1 billion in the box office. I would say even if they don't try, but they do have to try. So Solo, a Star Wars story.
Yeah,
proved that
exactly.
a little
That
bit.
proved to them. It was kind of like a reality check.
And it's such a.
Mhm.
I mean, this is just my own sort of, especially from Bob Iger's his biography, or definitely that was ghostwritten, but like the Solo's failure at the box office really, as we all have sort of said, spooked them. It really messed with them, which is really unfortunate because for me, Solo is a great product. I think they put out a great movie that I really connect with and enjoy.
It had nothing to do with the quality of what they made. It was
and
the
like the fact that
marketing.
the marketing was awful, and the Denny's
Horrible.
thing, and then they put it in between Infinity
The
War and
Denny's thing.
Deadpool.
The Denny's thing, yeah.
It could have easily come out in December and made $800 million, and it's a
Right.
shame. And I think it's
Star Wars and Christmas are like
but
very tied together for
my-
me. So
my point on that though was that Bob Iger's logic was that there was some sort of Star Wars fatigue, and I don't think that's the case at all. I think we've shown as a fandom more than ever that honestly, the more content, like with this long form television content, that's we're eating that up week to week.
We just
and
want
so-
more of it. Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
I just think more of it, and then to go back to what we're talking about, I personally don't know if we can return to the movie, because even that Mando finale movie, it's built on tens of hours of television that we were watching over a period of years, rewatching, getting into, and like that is so much buildup, and the nature of what they're doing in between 6 and 7, which I'm pretty sure they're gonna sort of adapt Heir to the Empire for this era with Thrawn, and
yeah,
it's just gonna be a loose sort of adaptation of that tale in the right after Return of the Jedi. Like that has so much. Not only is it a sort of a pre-existing story with pre-existing characters, but we have TV shows. Like I don't know how well that Taika Waititi's movie is going to land in 2025. I'm not sure. Like just I don't know if we can build, because we've just been so spoiled. I don't know if
Yeah.
we can
Well,
build that up, the hype for a new thing.
I think in the case of Taika, I think he's gonna have like, it seems like his own kind of story. I think he's kind of touching on something that really hasn't been explored yet. So yeah.
Exactly.
It'll be
That's-
unique, but it's marketing to the audience, and
Yeah.
I don't think you need to necessarily market it towards Star Wars fans. Those diehard fans are going to be there, day and night. But when it comes to the casual audience, how do you make a Star Wars trailer? How do you make a Star Wars story now that isn't titled 7, 8, and 9 and can really catch their attention? I
Exactly.
think Rogue One was kind of a really good sign of being able to do that. But on the same token, Rogue One was very familiar. Of you guys remember Episode 4? We talked about getting those Death Star plans. Here is this playing out in real time.
Great
So
trailers. None of it in the
Yeah,
movie. Great
Oh, yeah.
trailers.
Star Wars trailers always slap.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was an awkward silence. The
That's called dead air.
That's good. Dead air. That's some nice dead air. So you mentioned how Attack of the Clones was the first movie you ever saw in theaters, and so would you consider that to be your first Star Wars experience?
Oh, I unfortunately I can't even remember what my first Star Wars experience was. It literally has just
Yeah.
always been
That's a common
part.
answer.
Yeah, it's just it's so engraved. Like I do not remember a time without Star Wars. That is why I always say yeah, Star Wars should always and is always for kids, because a lot of us fell in love with it when we were young. Someone like my girlfriend, she fell in love with it in the past 2 or 3 years when she first saw it. But for some of us, we got that experience a little earlier. So it's like, oh, I don't know what life was like before Star Wars. That's why I've always found it interesting listening to people who saw it for the first time in 1977, go
Oh,
in
yeah.
and 20, 30 years old, coming out and being like, I was a different person after seeing that. I mean, it's like, you don't get that anymore. That's something so unique to Star Wars that you don't hear that about any movie ever. I mean, who the hell went into Avengers Endgame and came out and was like, dude, that changed my life when he said, I am
True.
Iron Man? Like that.
I think
really,
there are probably a few people out there.
well,
No,
they
I
need
mean,
to-
there's definitely diehard Marvel fans, but I totally agree with Only. I think
Star Wars was like a
there's
I'm
a
not saying that
completely
Endgame-
different
No, just
culture
playing devil's
impact
advocate.
and cultural shock from,
Oh, for sure.
from Star
Mhm.
Wars. So
Right.
Yeah.
Never happen again.
yeah, I
Yeah.
have pretty much the same answer. I think most.
I don't know,
guys do
man.
too.
Maybe Avatar 2, James Cameron Avatar 2.
Oh yeah.
Might do it.
Avatar
God,
just
can't forget
Avatar
that
just beat
Avatar.
Avengers Endgame again.
Been working on it for like 89 years. It'll come out.
It's
one day.
hilarious too, because no one talks about that movie, Avatar.
Yeah,
I never
don't
hear
know.
anyone.
I've never met anyone who's been like, what I really love? Avatar.
Yeah.
know?
Well, when it
I
came
really
out,
like
it was everyone's
Avatar.
favorite
Yeah,
movie.
and if they do, they're probably talking about The Last Airbender. They're definitely not talking about
Yeah.
the blue ones.
Yeah.
Like,
Love me
yeah,
some
I
The,
don't know.
the Navi,
James
man. The
Cameron.
Navi.
There's something
Right.
about them and that hair shit. James Cameron has like this obsession with, I'm going to make a movie and it is going to make the most money any of you have ever seen. He did it with Titanic. That pissed George Lucas off, so he had to make The Phantom Menace. And then James Cameron was like, all right, you guys think you're all so good with the Star Wars and all that. I'm just going to make this weird movie and I'm going to beat you all. And then I'm going
It's
to come
gonna-
back and do it again.
You son
Right.
of a bitch, you're stupid.
Yeah.
Vote, you dumb vote.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a similar thing to or answer to first Star Wars experience, but what I'm always usually really interested to hear is favorite Star Wars experience because it seems to be different for everybody. So I don't. Do you have like one definitive favorite Star Wars experience?
Oh, geez. Now we're getting like to my deep, like treasured memories of
Yeah.
can I think
I
back to
told you,
like
man. Give us your deepest,
Getting
darkest secrets
personal.
right here on
Yeah.
All New
yes,
Nerds.
deep and personal.
All
My
your
favorite-
personal info.
Oh man, seeing Revenge of the Sith in theaters was very unique because I mean I was born a day before the Phantom Menace came out. So
wow.
Revenge of the Sith
Wow.
came out a day after my birthday because it was yet again on May 19th. So I probably just turned 6. And I remember being in the theater. I remember seeing seeing people with the lightsabers swinging them around, like how excited everything was and how excited I felt. I saw that movie like 5 times in theaters. But in terms of like young experience like that one always resonates with me. Older wise, when The Force Awakens came out, I was probably 15 or 16. I can't remember exactly, but I remember seeing that in theaters. And one moment that always like has stuck out with me and really like just sat with me well is I was sitting in the seat and I look to my right and I see this guy who was leaning forward and he just looks like a generic guy. His hair and he's got his beard and like a little Star Wars t-shirt. He's leaning forward and it's the ending of the movie and it's when Luke Skywalker is about to get on screen. And everyone in the audience knows, like, we just instinctively know that this is going to be the scene we see Luke Skywalker and what's going to happen. Like, I'm never going to get that feeling in the theater again of that goosebumps. But I remember looking at this guy and like seeing his childhood in his eyes. Like he wasn't crying, but I could see tears in his eyes looking at Luke. And just like, I remember thinking in that moment, I'm like, wow, like this franchise, like this guy hasn't probably seen Luke on like a big screen since he was a kid seeing this film in theaters for the first time. So those kind of moments like always stuck with me where it's like, all the bullshit aside, like it's surprising how impactful these kind of stories and movies have on us. And that being a teenager, that just meant a lot to me of like, you know what, like I feel almost validated in like having these kind of experiences in Star Wars because it means something a lot to me. And looking to him, I feel validated because I was like, hey, it means a lot to him too. And this guy is probably like in his mid 40s and having memories of his childhood. Like that just always felt so surreal to me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you
That's,
sort of like just like felt like a connection
That was a
almost
great
just because
answer.
of this
And
one. Like you're feeling what he's feeling,
Your
Yeah.
parents were kinder than mine because I was 5 when Revenge of the Sith was around and PG-13 not allowed. Couldn't
Same.
go.
I didn't get to go
Yeah.
see that.
Well, hey, my mom
go.
covered my eyes
I
when
was
Anakin was
4.
burning alive and killing
not.
children. I promise you on that.
Well, she's a good mom for that.
Yeah,
mom.
my dad doesn't like the prequels. I remember after the that came out, like a few years later, talking to him, I was like, "Hey, you remember the Phantom Menace, right, Dad?" And he's like, "Oh God, that shit."
Yeah,
he's like, "Call me when George isn't making Star Wars." He
Yeah.
got his
Well,
give
wish.
him a call.
Well, I was gonna say, got his
Yeah.
wish.
Yeah, so the first movie, I'm right there. Like the youngest or the first movie I saw was the Clone Wars, and I think that has
Yeah.
that has a lot to do with I think the way I view Star Wars now because my first film was that movie, and people hated that movie. And the movie has like a 2% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh,
think
I
it's 10 or
remember seeing
something.
that in theaters and hating it. Yeah.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
hate it, but as as an 8-year-old, I was so taken by that. And going
Mm.
forward, I've always just, and I think because it's that Filoni, like, and watching the Clone Wars, and just for some reason, I missed the hate of the prequels because I was too young to understand it, and then I was just right at the perfect age where the Clone Wars shaped me, and I think because of that, I credit, if I ever meet Dave Filoni, I'm gonna thank that guy over and over again because I credit
Mhm.
like him and George for crafting that and then thereby crafting me and how I view these other stories and just trying because people were hating on that too as when I look back and the prequels and I just missed all of that. I missed the hate and was just able to ride this wave of like, dude, Star Wars is so cool. And then that was all I had and then that's all I got. And then yeah, I think personally because I have for some reason Force Awakens I was the same age as you, but Force Awakens didn't really. I like the movie now. I love the movie now, but it didn't connect with me when I saw it in theaters. Like I don't have the same visceral memories. The movie was just like, yeah, it was a good movie. The Last Jedi though, that's mine, but that's neither here nor
Yeah.
there.
Mhm.
But an experience that resonates with me, and I think you can say the same as I wanted to say this for our viewers. Just going to a celebration, going to Celebration 2019, and being in a place where everyone around you just has this passion and love, and like you can look any direction and just start a conversation with someone, and they'll know what you're talking about. It's such an amazing feeling, and I think that that element of our fandom and like being in a location where we can all talk to each other, that's when it's the best. That's when it's at its best.
Yeah, Dylan and I have not gone to Star Wars Celebration, but we do. All the Nerds has plans of hitting Star Wars
yeah.
Celebration 2022. So,
Yeah.
anyways, but that's a little ways out.
Yeah.
meet
I
y'all
don't
there.
know. I just
Yeah, for you, Dylan. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just remember the air like before in line for The Last Jedi. Like there were so many people and everyone was talking about the same thing. Like Luke, like what's gonna go on with him? And it's just like personally, my favorite experience, which was brought with disappointment personally on the other side, walking out of the theater, but just like right before, just waiting in line, inching closer to get to my seat. It's just talking with all my friends about what's gonna happen, all our theories, everything, just everything that's been built up with YouTube, Star Wars theory, all that stuff. I think that is like my definitive like favorite Star Wars experience.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
those people, and I definitely know only knows about this because he's made a really good documentary about the Phantom Menace. But like in that Phantom Menace, the actual documentary, it's escaping me what it's called on the
Which one? The one made criticizing George Lucas, or the
no
one?
no 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 no
that
the
he
one
made?
the one he made, the one that's part of the
Oh, the
Phantom
beginning.
Menace. The beginning
Yeah.
at the end of it, when it's all those people's excitement for Phantom Menace, and it's those guys who get the ticket and they run in and they drop to their knees. I'm sure you've seen the footage, and they're just
Yeah.
screaming and they're so excited, and like I'm sure those moments are, even if they hated that movie, are still just there for them. And like those yeah, I totally get that, Dylan. Like something about this franchise and getting in, and because people then and now still hate the Phantom Menace, and it's like you can't even begin to capture that energy that you see in that footage
Mhm.
of like,
Yeah,
oh my
exactly.
god,
Yeah,
Or even
I-
in the theater when the Star Wars logo hits and the music starts and everyone's clapping. It's opening day.
Dude,
it's
chills.
incredible.
Yeah, for me, my first Star Wars theater experience was the Clone Wars movie, but I think it was much different for the Force Awakens. Like I got to go early, and there was this like special premiere thing, and there was, I think they might have been members of the 501st. I was kind of too young to like really know what was going on, but like people in Darth Vader costumes, stormtrooper costumes, got all pictures and stuff, and like everyone had lightsabers. It was just the coolest experience. Like the whole theater was bought out. It was just like this, just and in the room, and then yeah, the when the movie started, the music, everyone was cheering, clapping. It was just the literal chills the whole time. But yeah, no, it was the experience. Star Wars theater experience. Seeing Star Wars movies for the first time in a theater is something special.
It hits different, man.
Yeah, it's different.
Different.
Yeah,
No,
and
like it.
yeah.
Speaking of those documentaries, you've made 3 now, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and in those projects, like, what is the one you've enjoyed making the most? Like, what is the process like going into that? Because that's, I think, safe to say your like biggest output. Like those things get around. Like
Yeah,
millions of people see those.
Those are definitely my most popular works. I don't like any of them, to be told. Truth be told, when
They're
I
great.
look at them,
They're great.
I just see no. I like the first one, the Disney one. I the reason I made them is because I remember looking around the fandom, and I was a very upset person in 2018 when it came to Star Wars. But I was like, you know what? There's so many stories, there's so many narratives people drive about this, but like it's almost like reading a history book, and you hear about stuff but you don't see it play out, you don't really get all the details. And when something happens in a fandom, in a culture like ours, it can get muddy on like the exact details and everything. Like I'll just use this as a hyperbole example, but when like Ryan Johnson called people man babies, everyone took that as he's calling all Star Wars fans who didn't like his movie man babies. But when you look at like the context of the tweet, it was different. And like that's not even any relevance to my documentary, but I'm just saying that in general, that's how these kind of stories get told. Whereas time has gone on, now we're 3-4 years later, people go, oh, Ryan Johnson called us man babies. So when it came to these documentaries, I was like, I want to just look at everything as it happened, show it, and not spin it at all. No spin, no agenda to it. I tried to be as unbiased as I possibly could be. So I just would go back, I would document every single thing that happened, how the fans would react to it. I would show fans reacting to it. For me, they were passion projects, and my favorite one making was the Phantom Menace, And I really liked making this last one, Star Wars after George Lucas, and it's really more just about George Lucas as a person, and his kind of how he changed the world with Star Wars, but also how different it has been since he's left. But the Phantom Menace one was so fun to make because I got to I got to see this guy pour his like not his entire soul, but like imagine making so much money on Star Wars that you can't do anything else. So he feels obligated to do this again. And so he does it and he's putting all that he can into this. And it's just such a unique situation that all the fans that he's not trying to please, but he's making movies for completely turn their backs on him. And then he gets it right when he says something like, there's these kids who don't like you, Ahmed Best. He's talking to Ahmed Best, and he's like, the kids don't like, well, the people don't like you, but the kids are going to love you, and they're going to love you, and it's not going to be noticeable until 20 years from now. And it's just crazy that that's exactly what happened, and that was so fun to make because I got to just go back in time. And as someone who was born a day before the Phantom Menace, it was like going back not into your own life, but like thinking like, dude, I was here for every step of this, and I missed it all. And so that was so fun because it's a history. It's looking back in time and it's telling the story to people. And one of my favorite things about the Phantom Menace one is I had so many people who were in their 40s and 50s reach out to me, and even fans of the channel Star Wars Only, who would say, my dad watched your documentary and he said like everything was true, but it perfectly captured the vibe of going into the Phantom Menace in the 90s. And we talked about it with Endgame of like how that was a big event and how big Star Wars was. There will never be a culture event like 1999's The Phantom Menace, and also probably never a bigger disappointment. But that, like, the fact that Star Wars and George Lucas had that impact, that all came from him and that all came because of him, and then everyone turned on him immediately after. It's just such a fascinating story that can only be told in the real world. Like, if I gave a script to a studio describing what happened with that, they would go, get out of my office, get that Zack Snyder bullshit out of here. No one wants that. It just wouldn't make sense. So that was so fun to make, and that was really cool to see people react to. And George Lucas is just fascinating.
And it's an emotional a journey watching both your documentary and the one I was referencing at the beginning. I was watching it, relatively recently, and you're seeing the amount of passion he's pouring into this thing, and then getting to the end, knowing that this documentary is made sort of before it all goes to hell,
Mm-hmm.
and like
Yeah.
the
Well,
stuff
the-
at the end where it's like like I was saying, everyone's so excited and people are getting ready to go in, and there's the newscasts, like, oh my god, it's everyone was talking about it,
all in front
and
of the theaters. Yeah.
and knowing that
Yep.
from that moment it sort of sets off the chain of events that gets us to where we are now. It's just really, it's rough to watch. Like, from that point on,
Mhm.
the Star Wars community isn't really whole ever again, and it's like
Yeah.
that's just like that's tough.
It's very
That's
very
tough.
fascinating, and,
Yeah.
and maybe you can relate to it as like another person who's very interested in film. Like the final, I guess, shot of that entire documentary of George just writing for episode 2,
Too,
and like perfect quiet,
Yeah.
like just nothing. I felt like the message was, despite everything that's going on in the world,
It's
this is
gonna go
this is
on, yeah.
George at his truest point. Like just
Yeah.
the quiet. He's just writing his script, and that's what he wants to do. And that's what resonated with me. And like you're saying, like it's almost like the calm before the storm.
Storm.
Of like this is him just being like, whatever, doing his thing, and the world reacts.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up that point, but that final shot of the documentary where it is him writing the script that ended the documentary so well. So that was
Mhm.
that
Chills,
was really
man.
great.
Chills, for
Chills from
real.
that. So
It's tough, and it's interesting to
That's great.
see all the all the same elements of fandom that are so present today, that people like to think that a lot of this division is new. And we were sort of, I'd say, lovingly joking about Mike Zero. I don't know the man, but we were joking
we
about his
wouldn't.
channel
No, yeah, none of us do.
before the show. And even back then, there was this famous leaker, Super Shadow, throughout the whole prequels, who would just post on message boards just completely made up stuff. And like
Mhm.
the similarities. Are you familiar with Super Shadow? That sort of
I remember reading, or not reading, on watching the Hello Greedo video on it.
Video.
And he did very good, like breaking down. I mean, and I hate to name call, but it is like a modern day Mike Zero Doomcock thing where
Yeah,
you're like,
just that
wow.
there are these same sort of archetypes in the fandom from then until now. It's just so fascinating that
Mhm.
since then it's always been. And then, of course, like you said, the fans turned their back on George, and then George in his own way is like, I think a lot of that, and his family is the sort of the public story is what drove him to want to sell. Is like, what's
Yeah.
the point of making this stuff if you guys are just gonna hate it?
Yeah.
And then the irony of Disney and Lucasfilm trying to make something that people will love, and then it being just as divisive, if not more, than the prequels. Although
No.
it's just like, oh god, it's just
Well,
tough.
that's why. Yeah, that's why it's so tragic. Because I mean, like it kind of sounds. It's sad. It's sad, but like a lot of why Lucas kind of gave up was just because of the constant harassment from fans and stuff. It's tough situation. So
Right, and not
He-
just him, but
he's-
also like actors and people that worked on it. It's
Yeah.
like it was a whole kind of like ordeal.
yeah,
And
Ahmed
it comes with the
Best
job,
especially.
but, like,
I
it's
think
not-
of. I think of.
Yeah.
So
Star Wars, what Star Wars did to George Lucas is actually sad. I mean,
Yeah.
he made the most money he'll ever make in his life, or ever needs to.
but
I
at
mean,
what
Jesus,
cost?
but cost of his family. I
Yeah.
mean, truth be told, he lost
And
pretty
Marcia
much all of
Lucas,
his family. Because of Star Wars. His wife left him, and I mean, people talk about like, oh, the dark ages of Star Wars being like after 1980 to 1999. But like those were really dark times for George Lucas. I mean, he was at a very low point in his life, and so I've always found it ironic. Like he's such a family man. He tries so hard to have his life private, and he makes these stories about families. And yet, because of all this, because of all the work and how perfectionist he is when it comes to his work in his films, he lost his family at the time, and then he ended up selling the franchise to start a new family with his new wife and his new kid. And like you were saying, Levi, we look back at the films now, and it's like, well, damn, like we kind of want George back now, even though
Yeah.
he basically sacrificed a family to do all this for us. So it is very sad. Like it's very sad. I feel like for George Lucas and his happiness, it'd be better to go back and just be like, hey George, that the Star Wars script thing, just throw it in the can. You're not going to make anything, I promise.
and that it came up on one of your recent episodes of Chatooine, which is Star Wars Only's podcast, which you should go check out. Someone in his comments, or actually no, it was on his stream, but go check out Chatooine anyway. Someone in his comments asked, what would you rather have, Duel of the Fates, which is the unfinished episode 9 script, Colin Trevorrow's, or the Lucas sequels? And like your point about wanting him back, like as someone who's enjoyed what's come out since he sold it, it is so hard for me to like what in that question. And I know it's a counterfactual, so there's no ever real reality, and it's not necessarily helpful to harp on that because you can't. It's not possible.
Can't
but like
change it. Yeah.
trying to reckon with like what do you think the value of having George complete his story and everyone just hate it, and maybe 20 years from now, like honestly, it may have killed Star Wars. And I don't mean to be hyperbolic because that's a phrase that is thrown around a lot, but Lucasfilm was losing a lot of money making Clone Wars, and like it to make Star Wars content for George. I think that's one of the things we sort of forget as fans now, is that Disney's money has allowed us to enjoy so much, good or bad. It has allowed such production. Whereas at Lucasfilm, like these things really, as Only said, it's like a piece of this man's soul. Like it's literally like taking his life. And I don't know
It's
what's
his
more
baby,
valuable.
you
I don't
know?
know what's more valuable to me. Yet he's seeing that
Yeah.
complete story for good or bad, or having what we have now, where it's like it's an in between where I enjoy the stuff, but I know it's influenced by George. It's not George, but we also have just such a plethora of it. And it's and on your point about like the I can't imagine if the modern sort of tools of communication were available back during the original trilogy, because, and I was making this point to you only on text, that like, because people have problems with the sequels production. Oh my god, the original trilogy production is crazy. Like the money running out, and him being divorced, and writers changing, and constant script changes, and it's just like people would rip into George Lucas then. And I think those movies are such a magical thing that they got made when they made, right? How they did, and it is. Yeah, I don't know. You respond to anything I had to say. I've sort of just had some thoughts there.
No, you make a good point of like, the thought of having his sequel trilogy. For me, it's like I'm selfish. Like selfishly, it's like, because I don't know George Lucas as a person. I've never met the man. I mean, I know a lot about the guy because I'm a big fan of his work and consider myself a Lucas fan, if you will, even though I will criticize the guy. But it's like, do you selfishly want to see how his story would have played out so he could get his entire vision? Or would you rather him sell the franchise and just enjoy the twilight years and enjoy his time? I mean, why would you, in his position, why would you want to make content for people and stories for people who aren't appreciative of your work? This is where I get a little bit annoyed with modern day Star Wars fans who love George Lucas and treat him like he's a god and savior. And because he made Star Wars, and they're like, George should come back. He's better than Kathleen Kennedy. He's better than all these people. Whether that's true or not, what upsets me is it's like you guys are just focusing on like the rudimentary things of George Lucas, that he made Star Wars. You guys never talk about how he revolutionized the film industry 2 to 3 times in his lifetime.
Multiple times.
Yeah, it's no one has ever done that. I mean, you look at everyone in what they call the movie brat pack of, you have Martin Scorsese, Brian De Palma, you have not Rob, I was going to say Robert De Niro for a second. Francis Ford Coppola, Ron Howard. You have all these legendary directors, even Steven Spielberg, and all of them arguably have made films far better than George Lucas, but none of them have ever been as profitable as George Lucas, and not a single one of them, not a single one of them revolutionized the industry like George did. So it's conflicting. It's like, do I want to see him do more film work and be satisfied with that? Or, like you were saying, Levi, if the sequels suck, he probably would have killed Star Wars. There's really no going back after that point, because George would not have had the money. Because imagine he makes the sequels and none of them do over $500 million. Lucasfilm's gone. Like, he has to sell at that point. He's lost money at that point. So it's like, do you want to risk that, or do you want to let this guy enjoy his retirement, have his first biological child, and enjoy his life with his new wife?
No? Well, we're talking off the air about how what the original plan was. Lucas to have involvement in the Disney sequel trilogy. He was going to have some creative control, and so I think that's just an interesting point.
He's not that kind of guy. Like, even when he would. Sorry to intercut here, but like,
no, yeah, you're right.
Lucas's whole career was based off of bucking the studio's system and resisting the way movies are usually made. And I don't think he could have fit into the frame. And I think that's what we saw, is he didn't fit into the frame, and that's why he.
Yeah, and like, to add on, I'm a big believer in like filmmakers, fully idealizing their vision, and like I think to more recently Zack Snyder and the whole Justice League thing, like that was a huge impact and beloved by a lot of people. But yeah, it is kind of interesting, because again, like, he would have had serious financial troubles in like funding that kind of a big of a movie. It'd be interesting to see how it works. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know,
because we're talking about just the band, but we forget that, like, he talks about this. His responsibility was also to his employees, to the hundreds of people who worked for him.
Yeah, he had to pay everybody and
making
fund the film.
Making the decisions he was making, he didn't want to cost these people all their jobs.
Yeah.
And like, it's tough. It's tough. Well, and so where we are now, so Disney obviously bought the franchise, has made this, but because of that,
spoiler alert,
comes with money, and we are getting a ton of new content. So what is the piece of content you are most looking forward to coming up?
110% The Acolyte. After what KRT came out this past week saying that Revan was going to be in it, and that there's going to be a new focus on the Sith, The Acolyte focusing on the Sith, and just that new era in Star Wars is taking place 50 years before the Phantom Menace, is at the end of the High Republic. I mean, that's all really fascinating to me, and I'm excited to see what they do with that, because apparently the lead is supposed to be a female. Like they said, it's a female-centric series, but then Leslie Headland
clarified that it just happens to be a female lead, and that she just wants to make a good Star Wars show.
I liked how she was kind of annoyed with that.
Some other channels like spun that quote. So
well, and to be fair, Variety, who reported on that initially, made it like it's a female-centric. It's like, okay, well, female-led and female-centric are completely different things, people. Like, no one cares about a female lead. Cool. Who is she, and what's her character going to be? That's what we want to know. So
saying really female centric really just like, it sounds like they're trying to push an agenda, which is not what they
very
want.
Limiting. It's like, oh well, as a guy, like, I mean, that's cool and all, but like, all you told me is just going to be a bunch of women. Well, what's it going to be about, though? What's the story? So that one, despite any controversy that is going to happen when that comes out because of Leslie Headland, and I am nervous because I've seen her work. Well, not seen. I've looked at like the stuff she's worked on, and nothing has caught my eye really. But
Russian Doll is worth a watch.
No, I'll give it a shot. I'll take your word for it.
I haven't seen it. Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, I know that's what she's most popular for. Yeah, so I'm hoping she does a good job, because the Sith are very, very fun. The bad guys are cool. The badass. So
bad guys are cool. Yeah.
So I take it. Cool. Yeah. I take it you're an Old Republic guy. You like that old canon or old lore and
No,
stuff?
actually, I like the Old Republic in concept of having a bunch of Sith and Jedi go at it. I get really annoyed with this whole. There's only like 2 Sith. There's a lot of Jedi, and all the Jedi are stupid. I get really tired of that. But the Old Republic, I also think is like when I play SWOTOR. I mean, good God, those people are so overpowered. I mean, I got a guy
Yeah.
summoning lightning from the sky. I'm like, all right, we're getting a little bit OP here, but I do like the SWOTOR game. The Knights of the Republic's an amazing game, amazing story. So
Got the new one.
that era is cool. Yeah, and then the new one from Aspire remake coming out.
I want to clarify too, before we jump into that for our viewers, that the scoop from KRT is that Revan will appear as like a hologram or a holocron in the Acolyte as sort of like the legacy of the character, and going
it won't be like
Lucas,
casted in the show.
but going forward though, Lucasfilm does want to use the character. That's the scoop.
That's like the start of him basically in the new.
It'll just
canon,
kind of set up.
right?
I mean, like Ahsoka and Mando saying Thrawn. That's just kind of setting that up.
Right.
And on that point about the Acolyte, because I share some of your excitement, especially the Darth Plagueis book from Legends, which takes place around the same era, has a lot of interesting things about the dark side. But you mentioned how, yes, it does take place at the end of the High Republic era. And I think that's an era right now that gets a lot of undue hate. Because for me, like sort of what sells it for me is we're seeing how the Jedi go from like good Luke Skywalker, like at the end of Return of the Jedi kind of Jedi, to prequel, we're a critique of dogmatic religion kind of Jedi. Like, how do you get from point A to point B? And one of the characters in the High Republic, one of the lead characters, what we know from later content is that she is
Geode?
she's one of the Lost 20, and like the Lost 20 are from a deleted scene in Attack of the Clones. It's like, and Obi-Wan's looking at their busts with Jocasta Nu, the Jedi librarian, and they're like the Jedi masters who left the Order. And I was like, I want to see how one of our main characters in this era gets so disillusioned with the Jedi, who are like so good at this point, that they leave, and that the Jedi sort of become this thing that is not like good. And the Acolyte is right at that line where the Jedi are going. Like, I think something's gonna mess with them, and I'm really excited to see what that is.
It's gonna be the Sith. Or whatever.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like,
yeah. Yeah, the Acolyte's definitely gonna be a breath of fresh air. Don't get me wrong, I want more Filoniverse stuff in this era we're getting, but it is gonna be really nice to finally like explore like pretty much, other than the High Republic books, like a pretty much unexplored part of the galaxy.
The transition between this time of like, there's a bunch of Jedi and like they're actual peacekeepers who had pretty good morals, and then kind of the transition to what we see in Phantom Menace.
Right.
Jedi Council is what it used to be. Seeing that transition, that downfall is going to be really, really interesting. So,
for sure.
I have so we got another question. Well, who is your favorite Star Wars character?
Oh, easy. Luke Skywalker.
Okay.
Told you.
I feel like
Told you.
Levi said that, so I wasn't.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right on the dot. It has never
It's
changed.
a good answer, man.
Me.
It's a great answer.
Yeah.
I feel like it's
Fantastic
he's the most
answer.
relatable character. I debated this with my girlfriend Miss Only. The last stream we did.
Shout out to
other
Miss
day.
Only.
Yes, big shout out to Miss Only. She's in the other room. We all love you, Miss Only. Whatchamacallit, she was saying that it was Anakin for her, and I was saying why I felt like it was Luke. And from I grew up with the prequels, but I was always watching the original trilogy
On
growing up on
DVD,
VHS.
yeah, on VHS,
I had to be VHS because God knows George Lucas isn't going to let me watch the original trilogy. On
Yeah.
DVD. No, I loved watching Luke because I feel like he was that character in all of us of he's this farm boy who's just like, I don't want to be stuck here anymore. We all come from a town, and despite where it is, you could be from LA, you can be from New York, but you're like, I don't want to be here anymore. If you've been there for 20 years or however long you have, there comes a point in your life. Yeah,
We've all looked out on that binary sunset.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many suns we have here on Earth, but I've tried to look for them.
Spend hours looking for them. Yeah.
Burn
Some
my
people
eyes
say
out
we don't
looking
even.
for 'em.
Some people say we don't even have an Earth. It's supposed to be like a flat plate or something like that.
Yeah.
So
No, they're right.
Flat
they're right.
Earthers. Yeah.
yeah.
Those
Yeah,
guys are right.
Let's go
Imagine
to
if
the
Luke
ice wall.
Skywalker was like a flat Tatooine guy or something like that. He's like, oh, Uncle Ben, what do you mean Alderaan? There's no other planets but
No other
this. You know? That'd be funny. But no, I love Luke. He's a whiny little brat in the first movie, and despite what anyone will tell you, we're all whiny brats at the end of the day. And seeing him go from that to being like a mature adult who is still kind of true to himself, but like just a good-hearted person, I love that because I feel like that represents everybody, of how we go from a little whiny teenager, we become the adults that we're supposed to be, fulfill that destiny that we're all seeking. He's the perfect character.
Yeah, and his
I compared the-
naiveness, in Empire, just kind of
Right.
thinking he can do
Yeah.
everything, and then he realizes that he
And all
can't.
that, honestly, what Luke Skywalker to me, because I, growing up in the prequel era, and I wasn't around during the original trilogy, and obviously it's a lot of what George did is based off of, the hero's journey and Joseph Campbell's work and the mono myth and stuff like that. So by the time I'm growing up and I'm seeing a lot of movies, Luke Skywalker sort of felt generic to me. I still loved the character, right? I've loved Star Wars always all my life, but I saw a lot of similarities with other characters in the media I was seeing in, the mid 2000s. But for me, it was, I don't know, controversial. It was The Last Jedi that made me really love Luke Skywalker. To me, The Last Jedi is what made him more dynamic and relatable than ever. And I know that's obviously just my opinion. There's a lot of debate about the way he is in that movie, and seeing everything you described. And then to me, I always go back to like being in a tough place like that, and you think you're doing the right thing, and you just have to wake yourself up and be like, no, I gotta, I'm not, this isn't this, you sort of gotta shake it off. If you're in a bad place, and just you still have the ability to go back and make that decision to be better. And I just make the choice to be better. And I think that's like the biggest core theme of Star Wars is a choice to be better. And I always go back to that. I think you can trace every decision made in these movies it's about a choice to be better. Whether it's Kylo Ren becoming Ben Solo again, or Vader becoming Anakin again. I mean, these characters it's all about, choosing the light because it's the light, which is a Qui-Gon Jinn quote from Master and Apprentice. But yeah, Luke Skywalker and The Last Jedi. I remember at the end of my theater experience with The Last Jedi going, I love Star Wars more than ever. Like, that movie made me see why I love the original trilogy so much. Like, for me, the movie was able to, it challenged what I liked about it. And a lot of people have this conception that it kills it and it's about letting the past die. But I think the end of the movie is very much like, no.
The bad guy
stuff
said
is
that.
all good.
The bad
That
guy
stuff,
said that.
That stuff is good, and you should love it. And here's why. And that's why it connects with me. And yeah, I think I connect too with Luke the same way you do. Only it's just, I would expand upon that a little bit.
Dylan, you were gonna say something about Luke.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I do agree that it's really important that he was once this whiny brat, and we also see that, and some people don't seem to get that. Like, you see it with Ahsoka, where like she started out as this character that's annoying for a reason, because it makes her arc that much better. Same with Luke,
She
and
was
I also
naive,
compare it. Yeah, and I also compare it to Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Not to get off Star Wars too much, but I see a lot of people say like, "Oh, I couldn't really get into it because Aang was too annoying." And it's like, well, you just gotta wait. Like season 3, like it makes it all that much better.
Yeah.
And I think that just the fact that he was once this whiny kid that turns into a Jedi master, and then even with the Last Jedi stuff, that's what makes him such a great, important, and one of my favorite characters as well.
Funny enough, talking about, you just talked about Ahsoka and Last Emperor. Dave Filoni, of course, worked on Avatar, so kind of funny.
Right.
But
It's all kind of connected there.
yeah. So I assumed I had a feeling it was the Luke answer, and that was a good answer. But I wanted to ask, what is your favorite obscure Star Wars character? So this is the background character. This is the character that nobody really focuses on. Who's one of your favorites? Not to put you on the spot,
Obscure.
but yeah.
Man, it's funny. There's
so many. So
it
I
would
know it's a
have
lot.
to be. It would have to be like, because I'm a George Lucas fan. It had to be George Lucas's cameo in Revenge of the Sith when he
Nice.
dressed up as that blue guy, the governor or whatever,
Yeah.
and he just like
Baron
laughs.
Papanoida from Pantora. Yes.
Yes.
Jeez, I
didn't
wouldn't
even
have
know
guessed
the name.
that in a fucking 1,000 years. I would have been like George L, GL, like I don't know.
Georgial, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Georgial.
Nice.
That's him. That's the only obscure. I mean, there's some cool ones. There's like Sly Noodles, but like the puppet version that's in the special editions because they added like the CGI one, but forgot to like remove the one in the background from the actual movie. So she's a cool obscure character. I guess she's canon 2 times.
I like Noltwesky Papanoida. George Lucas. That's his name. Noltwesky is the first name.
Noltwesky.
I couldn't
That's
remember it. It's horrific.
Mm.
Yeah,
The
that's good.
Star Wars names. I don't know how they come up with them.
Yeah, slice
I-
and
They
roast is
just
a good one.
slam their keyboard and
Just
Honestly, I'm reading the Thrawn book, Greater Good, right now, and there's so many names in it. I'm like, I don't know what that says, but I'm gonna remember like the letters.
Mithran
Yeah.
Rodo. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's complicated.
I
I'll stick to
recognize the
Thrawn.
arrangement of the letters, but no idea what that says. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's an interesting. We sort of skipped away from it, but I kind of want to go back to talking about the Acolyte and that because I think you've read Light of the Jedi and about half of Into the Dark, right? And I just wanted to know if
Yeah.
if you were interested in the era for the same reason that I was.
I'm interested in it because I can't. Oh man, I get into this. This is where I get upset with George Lucas and Star Wars creators. I hate the Jedi. I love the Jedi, but I also hate the Jedi. I hate the Jedi because they are the dumbest things in the world when it comes to the prequels. And when I watch the prequels, I go, okay, I don't like the Jedi because George Lucas focused on the wrong things here and wrote the Jedi to be idiots. And then to correct that mistake that George made, every Star Wars creator since then has gone, no, George is right. The Jedi are stupid. And I'm like, no, 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 no. They should be good. And they're like, no, 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 they're stupid. And then Luke said they were stupid. And all it's nice to see the Jedi in the High Republic do what I want the Jedi to do. And that is be good, spread, peace around the galaxy, and just do their jobs. That's what's fascinating me so much with the High Republic era, is that it's getting into the Jedi the way I feel like they should be done. And also it's not some big grand scale. The fate of the universe is at stake. There's a ninth super planet blowing, destroying weapon, like all this crap that we've all done it before now. I mean, we have this Sky Forge or whatever. So I'm like, I like something that's simple like this, where the Jedi are keeping the peace and there's not some big Sith army waiting on the other side of the country or something to come out of the woodwork and have another big galactic civil war. I like something simple like this. This feels very grounded, and it's also new territory for Star Wars canon.
Right there with
Right.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna open up a lot of. I haven't read really. I've read a little bit on the High Republic. I haven't read the books yet. I do got to get my hands on them, but it's gonna be really cool to see, like, I guess with the Acolyte as well, like how they transitioned from more like Qui-Gon type Jedi to what they are in the prequels. Like you said, stupid, dumb, dogmatic.
Stupid and dumb.
Yeah, it's a critique. Like the whole prequels, the way I read them now is, especially in the era they're being made, which is, and dare I say, inherently political.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty like scathing critique of the way institutions can turn on the people within them and how we, like, as people, need to keep them in check. Like, obviously you have a democracy like the Republic, failing, and it's like, well, institutions only work if we make them work. Like we can it's us that can make them broken. And then with the Jedi, it's like a critique of, the way I read it anyways, that is these sort of dogmatic religious institutions where it's like, you can, the whole hypocrisy of the way you suppress your feelings, and that ultimately, in the end, in Return of the Jedi, it's Luke's love for his father that saves him, and not him, repressing his emotions. And I don't know. I think I get made fun of this, but the themes of the prequels are amongst, I think,
Theme man.
my favorite in
Right,
Star
a
Wars.
theme,
I
man.
love the commentary that's being stated, and on the point that it's like not George Bush, but George Lucas. Like during the originals, he's like, the Palpatine is his name is Richard Nixon, and then in the prequels, he was like, it's Dick Cheney and George Bush. It's like, okay, George.
Yeah, who would have known how his sequels would have came out? There's this new
Yeah.
character named Ronald Humph or something like that. George was like, oh, this guy. Let me tell you about this guy right here. And yeah.
That's just it's
Yeah.
strange. It's a strange thing to me about the sort of argument around the politics of Star Wars, and especially with the new movies. When you have a movie like, I have to go back to Last Jedi because it's the one that gets people most up in arms. But I mean, it was written in 2014. Like I don't think that it has anything to do with what was happening in 2017. I really don't.
That's a very good point.
Like I really
Yeah.
don't. I don't think. I think The Rise of Skywalker is the only movie that is affected by some sort of like fan, just overwhelming like sort of nature of the fandom, because the Last Jedi and Force Awakens were written almost in a vacuum outside of the fandom. They were written in the prequel hate fandom. Like
Right.
that's the era they're being written in, and it's a weird contradiction to me where people talk about the politics, and I'm like, well, please
Yeah.
tell me what the agenda is. Like,
I mean,
don't
they're
get it.
they're accessible stories, and it kind of proves that you know, Earth and just society's isn't too unpredictable. You know, history really does repeat itself, and there's a reason that these stories you can fit them into so many different times and like eras and politics. So I get that's just kind of how it, you know, formulates, where it's like people can point to Snoke and be like, they were talking about Trump. It's like, well, no,
I don't think so.
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I
Not
think they were
quite.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
And
Yeah.
you know, speaking of, you know, if whoever wants to segue, and I think this is a pretty good segue talking about the Last Jedi. But only what's your unpopular Star Wars opinion? What do you think is your most unpopular Star Wars
Yes.
opinion?
God,
Let's
how
go
many
there.
do I? How long do you have actually?
How long?
However long you
Uh,
need. However long you need.
Damn, I hate it because it's like it's like saying Revenge. I'm not using Revenge of the Sith as my unpopular opinion, but I'm saying it's like saying it's overrated, but yet also saying it's underrated. You know, I think George Lucas gets far too much credit for Star Wars than he deserves. I know that's a hot take because yeah, he created it. He thought of it. Yeah, it's absolutely true. But
Sizzling
he is
hot.
he's
There's
not
a
what made
lot
it
of people
work.
behind the scenes.
Yeah, he is not what made it work. Gary Kurtz, Lawrence Kasdan, Irvin Kershner, these are people who were very important to Star Wars and what made it feel very unique when it came out. Not in 1977. I mean, that was kind of Gary Kurtz, but Empire was perfect because Irvin Kershner directed. Gary Kurtz is an amazing producer who let him do whatever he wanted, despite George Lucas being pissed off about it. They're just George works great with collaboration, and recently, you know, mainly over the past 10 years, there has been this revisionist history of George of that, like, oh, his film A New Hope wasn't saved in editing by his wife and Paul Hirsch and other people. That was all George. He's it's funny. He screwed it up, but he also fixed it. It's like, no, that's not how it works. Okay.
Well, I mean,
He-
that's just how film works in general. Like, it's not just doesn't come down to. I mean,
it's not perfect.
it's collaboration.
Right.
That's what film is. It's
Ge-
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
George is a spectacular world builder, and he's really good at telling a story. But when it comes to writing, and I imagine, I mean, I don't know for sure, but certain aspects of directing, yeah, I think he misses the mark a little bit.
Yeah,
He's a very lazy director.
Yeah.
If you watch the prequels documentaries, like mainly Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith, he's like, "All right, you're gonna set the shot over there.
I'll
Where's my
yell
chair?"
action. I'll
Yeah,
say
I'll
action.
yell at. Oh yeah, that
Yeah,
guy.
that-
He's
from
like,
the-
he's like, do you want to set back and cut or do I? I'll say action and
I'll
cut.
say
All
action.
right.
Am I making this up? Didn't he say something? Wouldn't he say something all the time on set?
Faster, more intense.
Yeah,
Faster,
faster.
more
Yeah,
intense.
yeah.
Well, yeah,
that
it's like
always
he
is.
had this, like, it's almost like he was like making a book, you know, and then just like let other people like, I don't know, tried to just like put it into a movie where it's like he has all these crazy awesome ideas, have these huge lore significance and stuff, but like when he doesn't exactly do it the best when he puts it on film, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he knows. It's funny because people like try to think. I hate when like these YouTube videos come out and they're like George Lucas writing secretly brilliant the king of wooden dialogue. It's like, no, George has always said since before he even made films, I am an awful writer. I have no idea how to
Yeah.
write dialogue. There's a reason he had people who helped him out with American Graffiti because
Yeah.
he wrote it and it was a very good. It's a very good movie. I love American Graffiti, but he had to bring in this married couple to rewrite the dialogue on pretty much all the scenes because they were like, George, no one talks like this.
I
Oh,
wish someone like
gosh.
that was there
Dialogue
for
is
Padme
hard.
and Anakin in episode 2.
There's a
No,
lot
there
of
was. Her name's Carrie
Yeah.
Fisher, and she didn't do
Yeah.
shit.
There's a lot of they fight. That's my
No,
favorite.
there-
where
there's
he's like,
a-
he
there's a
comes
lot of
in,
they fight.
a lot of
Yeah.
they fight.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
literally calls Lawrence Kasdan up a week before the Phantom Menace is filming. Like, oh, hey Larry, you want to come down and help me with the script? And he's like, George, aren't you guys like filming in a week? And, well, I
Yeah.
don't fucking care. I mean,
I
all right.
I also stand by that the prequels are the perfect movies for like mega fans because one, you can like you're not taking everything that's going on at face value, but if you're like a casual movie goer or just like don't know like the significance of like what exactly is going on or everything before and after, it's like, yeah, these movies suck. These movies aren't great.
It's like this is the memes you guys were all talking about. This is
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
He literally just said, "I am the Senate. It's treason." Then and then charged at him. That's not how any of this works. Like,
I am.
I'm
Yeah.
really
I mean,
kinda-
like, you gotta give him credit though. Like, the dialogue is like, I think the lines of Star Wars are like, yeah, I think definitely Star Wars has the most
Oh,
quotable.
without
lines.
that, we don't get
all
another
of-
happy landing.
and
stuff like that. Like,
specifically the prequels too. You know, But
Right.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to think of you mentioned it only, and I had the name in my head, but there's a it's like Lee Brackett is one of them, right? And then there's
Oh,
a
no, she died. She was the first writer for
Oh, the writer.
Empire Strikes
For
Back.
Empire, but
Yeah.
there's the couple who referenced who like did the rewrites, and I can't for the life of me think.
Yeah,
Oh
I can't
God,
remember their name. They worked with him on American Graffiti. I want to say No, did they do THX 1138? I think that was all George.
I
But they
know they
worked
did
on
American Graffiti. Yeah,
yeah, they did another project with George, but I highly doubt it was Star Wars. I really don't think they did that. I
I
think it
think
was something else.
they because I was watching. The reason it's in my brain is because the Star Wars Theory had one of his interviews. He's doing a lot of interviews recently with
Yeah.
like people who were involved in the production, and I believe it was Paul Hirsch who was talking about.
Is it Gloria Katz and Willard? Oh God, I don't know that last name. Does that
Sounds
sound
about
familiar?
right. That sounds familiar. Gloria does, at least.
Gloria.
I don't know.
Katz?
I got a lot of freaking George Lucas biography books. I can go back to my apartment.
I'm
and
sure you
pull
got a
out.
lot of stuff in your brain too that's all jumbled because all those
Oh
documentaries.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. People were like, "Hey, you know anything about the George Lucas family?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do. What do you
I
want to know?"
do.
No,
Yeah, I have a family tree drawn up. Right
Yeah.
now,
What do you
so-
want to know?
Yeah, no,
Connecting dots.
yeah, freaking, yeah, it's weird. I remember talking to like sources about like his family situation. I remember being like, "Oh yeah, he's raising his daughter right now as his first like biological kid," and like this person who I know is like highly connected and was like, "Wait, he had a kid?" I was like, "You didn't know that he had a kid?" And he's like, "Yeah." And George is like really weird about it because, like I said, it's his first biological kid, and he's
Right.
like really old. And so
Yeah.
apparently, someone I know who's talked to him is like, "Yeah, never ask him about that. It's very uncomfortable to listen to
Yeah,
the man."
that's funny. Yeah.
I couldn't find. I've
Yeah.
tried.
So
Oh,
we're
go ahead,
coming
go ahead.
up in 2 weeks. We got Bad Batch, and it's gonna be some pretty
10
big
days
stuff.
at the
10
time of
days.
recording? Yeah.
But there is a question I wanted to ask you that kind of relates before we get into Bad Batch stuff. But what was your favorite like Clone Wars arc out of all of them?
Mortis.
Mortis.
Good answer.
I
There you go.
love
Good
the
answer, Ken.
lore. I love the mythos. I love the ideas of these people, the ones,
Mhm.
and like yeah, that stuff fascinates me in general when it comes to like I don't know if you guys are Middle Earth and Tolkien fans, but like I love learning about that. Like there's the Valar, the Maiar. Gandalf's not really just an old man; he is an angel who is kind of like a demigod who is confounded to this human body to help out the men and the elves of Middle Earth. So when it comes to the Mortis arc, learning about the lore of that, of like these ancient beings, I like for me one of the most interesting things ever would be I would love to see what Palpatine would do if he met these people, like what he would say, like how he would interact with the father, the son, all that. And learning about Abeloth and the expanded universe, all that stuff is really cool. So
I
that
think
is
he was
easily my
trying
favorite
to.
arc.
I mean, I think that's one of the things alluded to in both canon and Rebels, and part of this he alluded to in the sequels is like I think that was his ultimate goal, was to try
He
and
was trying to get there.
reach that netherworld of the Force and sort of just dominate the Force,
Mhm.
which I think is pretty cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, honestly,
answer.
I don't know if we should get too much into Bad Batch because Star Wars Only will be joining us on Jedi Jive on the live stream we do next Saturday.
Oh yeah.
Which is
We
3
can
days.
just talk about a little quick. I mean,
I'm trying to
first
plug.
off-
I'm trying to plug the stream.
Oh
I'm
no,
trying
I
to plug the
get I know what you're doing. Yes, no, but definitely Saturday at
2.
2 p.m.
2 p.m. EST.
Eastern Standard Time. Eastern Standard Time. So
Be
Right.
there,
definitely
be
go check that
square.
out. Yeah, be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Star Wars
And
Only
you
is a
don't want to
square
be
right now.
square.
Yeah,
Believe
we're all
me, you don't wanna
rectangles,
be
and Star Wars
square.
Only is a square
Yeah.
right now. So
Yeah, I'm built like a square right now. I'm not
All
in
square.
shape, but I am shaped like one.
It is a shape.
he
That's
turns on his
important.
he turns on his camera. He's just a literal square. Yeah.
I'm literally
Yeah.
Mr. Plinkett.
He actually
that
looks
would be
like
the
a
reveal.
Yeah. Well, you're totally off topic. What video have you seen Star Wars from in your intro? I looked for it for so long and I couldn't do it. I couldn't
Have you
find
seen
it.
Star
Last
Wars?
Jedi. Last
Oh.
Jedi.
Is it the Last Jedi one?
Yeah.
I couldn't find
Yeah,
it.
that's Mike Stoklosta.
Right,
He's
yeah.
talking about Ryan Johnson and Yoda. He was like Yoda in the Empire acts like he's stupid because he's putting on a ruse for
Yeah,
Luke.
you know,
But then in the Last Jedi, he does it even though Luke already knows who he is. And he asked Rich, who's a fucking meme of his own,
Dude,
like,
Rich,
do you understand that? I love Rich, and then
So
that's when
good.
Mike is like, have you seen Star Wars? And
Yeah.
I always love the way he executed that.
they do some
Dude,
funny.
that
they
is
do some
such a
funny
good
bits.
soundbite. Oh, that's
Yeah.
Have you
that's
seen?
I-
Yeah, dude, every time I load up one of your videos,
I
it gets a chuckle
crack
out of
up.
me.
Yeah.
The old one was
I-
better. The Star Wars only. I don't know what the fuck your problem is, but YouTube kind of got a
Yeah, I
little
didn't
annoyed
like
with
that one.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
like
the
it.
first 5 seconds, I'm throwing the
Honest-
F bomb
yeah,
at you.
Yeah,
Right.
no, they say don't swear in the first
30
1 minute,
30
nevertheless
seconds.
first
30
first 30
seconds.
seconds,
Yep.
nevertheless first 2 seconds.
It's to teach Luke a
YouTube,
lesson. He has to teach. They are what we grow beyond. It's
No, no.
ah
Do as I say, not as I do. That'll be my lesson.
the books. She takes the books. He's messing with them. It's classic Yoda. I have seen Star Wars, Mike. Yes. I think it's great. Best scene.
Who's been we have?
Best scene?
Who's
Best
been we
scene?
have not?
It's one of my
Best scene,
favorite
The
scenes
Last
of The
Jedi,
Last
100%. Yoda.
I think it's
dude.
excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Yoda.
They are what we grow beyond.
Yoda.
It's the burden of all masters. It's like you gotta.
It's true.
Right.
It's true.
Oh well, this will just become Last Jedi rants with me. And I don't
The debate that will never end.
We'll make. Yeah, I know. Literally,
it's crazy
so
how
funny.
relevant that movie is still stayed.
Still.
That's funny to me because I find it so irrelevant now. I mean, I hated The Last Jedi before anyone else did. I shit you not. I remember being
I know
at
people
Summer
hated it pretty
Celebration.
fast.
Yeah.
No, I know. I kid you not. Go back to my channel and look up like when the trailer came out. I even said I predicted a lot of the stuff people were upset about. I was at Celebration, and surprisingly here in Orlando back in 2017 when they revealed The Last Jedi. And I remember I have a friend who he knew basically how the movie played out, and he was like, "Hey, buddy, I'm gonna let you know we're good friends, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're not gonna like The Last Jedi. I'm just gonna let you know right now." I was like, "Why? What's wrong?" He's like, "Dude, Luke's fucking insane. He just loses his mind. You're just not gonna like it." And so then I see the trailer. I see the trailer, and like at the end, Luke's like, "The Jedi must end," and like some people were like, "That was Benicio del Toro's character. That wasn't Luke. He wouldn't say so." And I was the only one. I remember that, and I remember being in the audience, being the only one looking around, like, "What the fuck was that? You guys are cheering?"
Only let me
Go ahead.
Hold on.
Levi's gonna defend this.
Well, because the way Ryan Johnson explains it is like in Empire Strikes Back, Luke's decision, like Yoda is like, Luke, you cannot go to save your friends. You have to stay, complete your training. And Luke's like decision in that movie is he goes to save his friends. And so when he is faced with this decision again, where he's like, okay, the galaxy needs me, but I have to make the decision not to go. And he thinks he's doing the right thing. He thinks that like, okay, if I'm by not going, I'm able to I can, he has this perception that if I can just remove the sort of stranglehold that, as you said, the Jedi are stupid. Like from what he knows, the Jedi and the Force, and like he just thinks it creates problems. The message of the film is that, or the way I take it and the way Ryan, talks about it is like, okay, no, but you do have to stand and fight for something, and that's also, what you get with Finn's character. Like there is stuff worth fighting for, and you can't just put down the fight because you think in action it's. And I'll make a reference to Tron Legacy. I know you haven't seen it, but in that character, it also deals with a former hero who is sort of living as a hermit, and he believes that he has a quote where like, if it's the enemy's game, the only way to win is not to play, and like that logic of I went to save my friends and I got my arm cut off by Darth Vader, and I can't do it again. I can't do it. Like this is better, and he's convinced himself of that. So for me, I really like that dynamic of like Ryan was taking one of Luke's faults from Empire Strikes Back and like flipping on its head. We're like, okay, what if Luke didn't go to Bespin? Like, what if he didn't go? Like, would that have been the right thing? And I think what George Lucas was laying out in the original trilogy, which is something that people miss a lot, is that Yoda and Obi-Wan are wrong. Like Obi-Wan is like, you got to kill Vader. Like, kill that guy.
Yeah,
that guy's you got to just kill that man. And like, don't go save your friends. Don't do it. And like, but his compassion, you can be compassionate and good. The two are not mutually exclusive. Compassion and these feelings don't have to lead to the dark side. And so Luke, after being put on this pedestal and sort of almost falling into the similar thinking of the Jedi, because he's like, oh, what is being a Jedi? And I love playing with that idea. And I think personally for me, it really does understand the concepts of that original Star Wars trilogy. And I love that line and how at the end, I will not be the last Jedi. And he literally is holding the saber that he had thrown away in the beginning. Like he threw it away. He was like, no, I can't do it. And at the end, he embraces it. And he's holding it there, and he has the look of the hero of the myth. He's put himself there, and he does like the most Jedi possible thing. He saves the day without killing anybody, not a single soul hurt, and it's just like, oh, I love it. For me, I just dig it. It just speaks to me. It speaks to me in Luke Skywalker. I think it perfectly fits.
He's a very human character in The Last Jedi, which I never complained of. My big complaints have always been mostly that he's indecisive in The Last Jedi, but also for me, I've always equated this to Frodo in Lord of the Rings. Of when I watched Frodo in The Fellowship, he's like Luke in the original trilogy. He's a good character, he's a good heart and everything. But as we watch Frodo be corrupted by the ring, when it comes to the final movie, he's completely different. He can't go back to the Shire. He just has to sail off to Valinor and die because he's just depressed at that point. He just doesn't care, and he failed. I mean, he did not want to throw the ring into the pit of fire. He was corrupted by it and told Sam no. And I'm okay with this character arc because I get to see Frodo go from start to finish, from good, and I see him be corrupted slowly but surely. My big problem with Luke in The Last Jedi, and where I got upset with Ryan, is like I see him go into Kylo Ren's room and he feels fear of losing everything that he holds dear, like, all the things he's worked on, and he ignites the lightsaber. I'm like, okay, well, I feel like you're a Jedi Master at this point. You shouldn't feel fear. These are human emotions for sure. But I'm seeing you do this in a very short time frame, because a lot of people will say to me, well, Luke, so you're going to be a lot different when it's been 30 years. So you're absolutely right. You're going to be different. I want to see that change, though. I didn't get to see that change with Luke. Yeah. So for me, as an audience member, it didn't feel as believable that this optimistic character could be flipped on his head. It makes sense when we're explaining it, like, well, he feels responsible for Kylo Ren and Ben Solo. It's like, oh yeah, I understand that. That makes sense. But doesn't make sense to me why he felt like that with Kylo, because I feel like he would have been a lot powerful and smarter than he was when he was a kid facing off Vader. And also, I feel like it's just repeating some story beats that we've seen in the original trilogy, and I would rather do something different. I didn't want what everyone else wanted with Luke in The Last Jedi, where everyone wanted Luke to be Luke, come out with a lightsaber. So I didn't want Mark Hamill to swing a fucking lightsaber the whole trilogy. He's too old. I'm sorry. I love him, but I just didn't want that to happen. I wanted him to be like Ben Kenobi, take a backseat and lead. It's hard to do that because he's Luke, and I understand that.
He eats up all the scenes. Yeah, it's kind of difficult.
Yeah, he eats up all the scenes, and and Ryan did a good job of making all the Luke scenes in The Last Jedi far more interesting than anything else happening in the movie. But then it kind of sucks when you watch it and you're like, well, as someone like me, I'm like, well, I just don't really like the way you're taking Luke's character. I'm not coming to this movie asking for a reflection on Luke and the Jedi and where did we go wrong, and then him to switch it all back at the end. It's like I want to see what happens with Rey, Poe, Finn, and I didn't really get that with that movie.
For me though, it's an interesting meta commentary on. And I don't think necessarily intentionally a meta commentary, but well, firstly, I'll say specifically in the moment where he turns on the lightsaber and it's just like like as he says in the movie, it's an instinct. Like almost instantly, he's like, "Oh my god, what have I done?" And like it's the same for me. The parallels between that shot of him looking at his lightsaber and him looking at his hand in Return of the Jedi, and having the ignited lightsaber over his father and being like, he stops himself, and like so the character is I think the same but also different in how he's grown, but he still has that same. That darkness is you always have to be fighting back the darkness. And that's, I think, one of the things about Star Wars is it's a constant fight. It's not just, you don't just win being a human and then just move on. Right. But like the way that we as fans over the 30 and 40 years put Luke in this position, and I don't think necessarily you fall into this category, and I don't necessarily like categorizing fans, but one of the biggest complaints is that like Luke should have kicked ass. And so people over the time have put him on this pedestal, and then it becomes the exact thing that the movie is talking about. Like we all put him on this pedestal, and when there is a human, we were talking about this with Star Wars 3 before the show, when you are up that high, there's so much additional pressure on you, and it is like sometimes it can get to you. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's a fascinating take of like we as fans put that pressure upon the franchise, and then when the franchise presented us with like okay, this is what you're doing to the franchise, and this is how you can move forward with it and still love those same things. And I really connected with that. And then like it's just really it's crazy to me that, or more ironic and like not crazy, and I think people who don't like the movie are crazy, but crazy like wow, this is like the exact commentary that he was going for. That
Mhm.
it did exactly that. Like,
We're proving his point in
we're,
a way.
we're,
Yeah,
we're proving
right.
the point. Like we're all proving the point. Yeah.
yeah.
For
Say
me,
what
it's
you will
gonna
about
be-
Ryan Johnson. He made a film that made you think about stuff. Go ahead, Dylan.
I was just gonna say, for me, it's gonna be really important to see more of Luke in between episodes 6 and 8. I mean, we're gonna get
and
a lot
7,
more
yeah.
6
content.
and 7. Dylan.
6 and 7, yeah. I use 8 just
Oh,
because that's
'cause
when we
last-
really
yeah,
get to
yeah,
see
yeah,
Luke.
yeah.
True,
That's
right.
fair. That's
And just
fair.
like the decisions that we've got that he's
Mhm.
made. But it's just going to be really important to see. And I'm stealing words from other creators because this has been said 1,000 times, but it really resonated with me that we're going to get a lot more context and just a lot like they're going to be able to kind of build for fans like me that really didn't buy that he would go into Kylo's room and ignite the lightsaber. That I didn't buy that, and they're going to get an opportunity to sell that to me a little more than how jarring it was to see in the theater and be like, whoa, he did that. And again, it goes to your point. That's the point, that's what Ryan was trying to tell us. But to me, it never stuck, and it never really, I just never really bought it.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest kind of problems with the sequels in general was because I just think the time, like the point in time where they told the story was just, I wish they told it a little closer to what we already knew. Like this is just like the end of the story, which I guess makes sense because it is kind of ending the Skywalker saga. But I mean, like even like we just didn't even get like Leia and Luke and Han in the same scene. Like it's just one of those things. I'm like, how did
Mhm.
Leia and Han split up? Like like all this stuff. I mean, obviously, I bet that's explained in the book.
That's a whole other podcast, I think.
Yeah, I guess
Right,
that's
yeah,
no,
that's
that's
definitely a whole different
podcast,
can of
but I
worms.
just-
we've
I
been going
agree.
for a while now, and
Yeah.
I know that we're taking a lot of your time only, and so we do have you'll be the first to start this tradition. But on the
This is
all
the
new
f-
nerd,
yeah, first.
on the all new nerds, we have a sort of we all got together and smashed a tier list of Star Wars together. And every person we have on, you get one thing to change on the tier list. And so going forward, we are going to have this just Frankenstein tier list of a bunch of people's different opinions. And so on this tier list, you see in front of you, Dylan is sharing his screen. You get to change
Damn.
one thing. What do you change?
You get any power to change it.
Any power.
No discussion even needed. Like you don't got to sell it to us. We'll change it.
We'll
Well,
change
no,
it.
we can talk about it, but yeah.
No, I'm saying I would like
Mostly
one.
you
I'm
just-
just saying don't worry about like
one thing.
but
And
take
they
your time,
are-
just
and
take a look.
By change, you mean I move it on?
You can
move it, yes,
the
you
list?
can move it wherever.
You can move one thing
Anywhere.
on the list.
Okay.
And by the way, they are ordered in like for the S tier example, they are all S, but that is the order from left to right in which
Right.
right. And this is a list that we collectively like. I don't necessarily agree with everything on this list, but it's
Yeah,
like
this is
a
a collective
three-way
list.
like.
I had to
Sec-
compromise a lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Levi's
I was about to
special.
say, you guys have. Oh man, that S list would be cut in half. I'm gonna let you know right now. Probably not even cut in half. Probably, I literally would remove all three of the things other than Empire if I had the opportunity.
You get one. You get one.
You can,
yeah, I
you
know,
can do
I'm
one
getting-
of them. Yeah.
I know. I'm trying to think. I'm like, what's the one that I can move? Because all right, you're saying S is in love, as in like our personal opinions, or are we trying to look at this as like a
Totally
this is
personal.
No,
great?
personal. Yeah,
Okay.
Totally
personal.
personal.
Yeah.
It's totally subjective.
Yes.
I'm gonna be real honest. We're gonna have to move that Clone Wars movie down to awful. I just
It's not the
feel like
movie. It's the Clone Wars movie.
No,
I
it is
see.
on
Okay,
there.
never mind.
That's
yeah,
great.
no, the movie's
Ooh.
there.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
that's-
That's just. I don't feel like that can be tolerated. I don't
That
feel
is
like that can be
so-
tolerated at all.
We-
You
out of
hated
all of
that
them, I'm like,
much only? Really?
dude. I was like 9 years old in the theaters
I
watching
watched it
this
too,
thing, and
yeah.
I was like, George, what the fuck, man? I spent good money on.
I was convinced. I was convinced that you were gonna move A New Hope up. When we were making this, I was like, I bet only will move A New Hope up.
Nah.
I thought he was
think
gonna.
he's a
I thought he
big
was
fan
gonna
of the
take something
OT.
off of.
I saw Last
Yeah.
Jedi going down.
Clone
That's
Wars
what I
down
thought.
to
You know,
awful.
like-
That's
like,
what a
yeah.
bang. What a
Yeah.
what a
Hey, at
What
least
a
we have
fuck
something
you.
in awful, right?
just what a
We
bang
Shocked
is
my
couldn't-
heart.
We
Well,
couldn't
yeah,
even
I
bring
definitely
ourselves to
think you
put something
guys-
in D.
Yeah, I was
So-
like, dude, y'all are way too gracious. First of all, Resistance should be an unsatisfactory.
I said-
Definitely
I said
Clone
that.
You
Wars.
get one. You get one.
Not
You get
Clone
one.
Wars. I know I get one, but I'm like Attack of the Clones and pretty good. Like, it's
I was
pretty.
But bottom are pretty good. You gotta keep that.
See,
in
but
mind.
see,
We
here's the
like
thing,
Star Wars only.
Like,
We
like
enjoy
We-
Star
like
Wars.
yeah, we act yeah.
the
We're
Phantom
fan-
Menace is
they'd all-
excusable because
they'd all
it's
be
a
an
pretty
S.
good bad film. But
We're
oh
up to me.
man,
It'd all be an S.
oh y'all have Solo and great. Oh, this is great. I love
Solo would be an S if I had. To
I
be
don't like
fair.
I don't like
Rogue
Solo.
One, God.
Only
Solo's a
you gotta
great
know.
movie,
I don't
man.
like Solo as much as they do. So
Yeah, I've Goldman, if you guys know him on Tatooine, he's
Mm-hmm.
asked me in one of the streams where he's like, okay, I just gotta ask the question, dude. Give me your like 1 to 10, like just let it rip. And I never do them. I don't even have a video up on it because I'm like, it changes all the time.
I
And
know.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I
they
came
do.
to
yeah.
realization, I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, there's like 2 Star Wars movies I love, and then there's like 5 that I think are good, and like 1 that I think is just perfection and great.
Yeah.
So like A New Hope, Empire, Return of the Jedi, or like I love all those movies. Return of the Jedi is one of my favorites, if not my favorite, because of Luke at the end and everything. But like Solo, Rogue One, Rebels, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, pretty much everything other than like The Force Awakens and Mandalorian. For me, I'm like, meh, I don't care. Clone Wars is cool, like the show, but like the first 2 seasons,
outrage. It's
even
unfair.
season 7 wasn't that perfect. Yeah, it's
It's outrageous.
yeah. I'm like, sometimes people make fun of me for like, are you really a Star Wars fan? Because you seem to hate everything. It's like I don't hate it. I just there's certain
That's half
things
the
that I know. I'm
fun.
like,
That's half
yeah,
the
I'm
fun.
like I love it, but
this is gonna. I can tell this is gonna be a great bit going forward. I'm gonna have to.
Oh,
Clip
yeah.
every time.
I
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah,
I wasn't
I-
sold on it at first, Levi, but I really like it.
Awful.
You need
I was
every time
stunned.
Oh,
just
what,
make,
this?
Make
Oh,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
highlight
This
clip.
idea.
Make a highlight clip of every single
Yeah.
time this thing moves,
Yeah.
and just do a
Yeah.
compilation. Because I
Oh,
want to see
exactly.
people who would.
So this is the list now that we're gonna
This is
show.
the
Oh,
list.
because we
Yes.
gotta start adding stuff too when all the other shows come out. So it's
Yeah,
all
that's
interesting
true,
to see
yeah.
what
Yeah.
that's
God,
like.
I- Clone
I
Wars
pray
movie-
to God the next
Wars
guy you guys get
All
in
right,
is
so
some,
that's-
it
that
goes
is
like,
Star Wars
hey,
only
only's wrong. Yeah, I hope
Yeah.
I hope someone moves
It's
it. They're
just the
like,
Clone Wars movie that will ever
It's-
move. That's
Yeah.
people like get that out of there.
No, I think the next person we're having on is Star Wars Santa, if you're
Star Wars
familiar.
Santa, yeah.
And
Yeah,
I think
really
I
good
think
guy.
I think I predict the Last Jedi up to either great or S. That's what I'm,
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm.
uh,
That's what I'm hoping for, baby.
Alright. We got to make a list.
Yeah, we should
because
start
this is
betting
gonna-
on this, Levi.
Yeah, we should. I was
Yeah.
really betting on only moving up
Honey
New Hope,
Jedi.
but
Whoa,
damn,
we should do
I'm
this live and have
awful.
people bet. Just have people gamble on who's
God.
going.
Yeah, we
to
could do a
like they got to
stream.
do all their
All right,
research.
all right, guys, don't distract.
Yeah,
All
we're
right,
getting ahead
sorry,
of
only.
Clone
Yeah, we're
Wars
getting
are
ahead of
awful.
ourselves.
Star
That's
Wars only.
crazy.
Thank
That
you for your
blows my mind.
contribution to
Yeah,
this
that was
tier
great.
list. That you
No,
really added some
pleasure.
flavor because we
Yeah.
didn't have we couldn't put anything in DNF.
Yeah,
Awful. That's
yeah, I'm
great.
glad to add a little bit of pepper to all this fucking salt you guys put on here. All right,
Yeah.
change it up.
Yes, you definitely
But-
I
did.
love it. I
Yeah,
love
that
it.
Uh, well,
was
I
fun.
think that this has been a conversation with
Yeah, I
Star
think
Wars
we're
only,
good-
and we'll
good
have
to
his,
wrap.
we'll have his stuff in the description, and
Of
Thank
course.
you
This
guys
is
so
not the
much.
last you'll see of him.
I hope not. Yeah, I hope we'll be able
Together,
to work
so.
together in the future. But yeah, thank you
on
guys
the
for
Jedi Jive
watching.
live stream. Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. This was a great conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe and hit the like button. This has been Levi,
Smash it.
John, Dylan,
To us
And
and,
o-
Star Wars only if you
and
haven't
only.
already. I mean,
yeah, and Star Wars only.
yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. See you later.
All right,
See you.